Well, good evening and welcome. Welcome. My name is Jonathan Iterak, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's forum. As a board member of Together for Timnath and as the pastor here at Timnath Presbyterian Church, it's a privilege to welcome you into this space tonight and just to be together. I also want to take a moment to recognize and welcome Timnath's presumptive next mayor, Robert Oxmacher. Thank you for being here tonight. And we're delighted that all of you are here for what will likely be our only opportunity to hear directly from all three of our candidates for Timnath's Town Council at the same time in a formal public forum. So as we get started at this time, I do ask that you please turn off your phone or any other devices, and we'll let you also know that we are recording this event tonight. To begin, a few words about Together for Timnath. Together for Timnath is a nonpartisan, nonprofit civic organization dedicated to building a socially, culturally, and economically thriving community with Old Town Timnath at the heart. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. We've been active for almost 2 years, and we welcome your participation. And if you'd like more information, we ask you to talk with one of the board members here tonight. And so I would ask if any board members here tonight would just raise your hand so that we can kind of see where you are. Dixie next to me is one of those members. Dan is there. And if you'd like more information, talk with us after the event and ask us any questions you'd like. We really have only one goal for tonight's forum, and that is to inspire and support an informed and engaged community by providing space to hear directly from our candidates in a neutral forum. That being said, we realize that many of you in the audience may already have support for one candidate over another. However, we expect the candidates and you, the audience, to treat each other with dignity and also to come with open ears to everyone who's here tonight. You should have received a question card that looks kind of like this when you arrived. If you did not receive a question card and think you may want to ask a question later on, you can raise your hand now and somebody will bring you a question card so that you can fill that out. It'll be collected. Raise your hands high too, so we can make sure to see that. And if you have a question that you write throughout the night, you can raise your hand, and there are people who will be watching for that. We'll collect them. We will review them and then prioritize questions with broad application and remove those that have already been addressed or that are deemed inappropriate. We may not have time to cover all the questions that are here tonight. And assuming that will be the case, we will share the questions that you write with our candidates so that they have the option to respond after or outside of this event. So if you would please include your name and email and phone number on the question card, that way they can get back to you if you don't get a chance to talk to them here tonight. The timekeeper for this evening is sitting next to me here, Dixie Poteet. She is a resident of Timnath and a member of Together for Timnath's board of directors. To ensure equal treatment for candidates, Dixie will keep time and hold up cards indicating remaining time. Green means 1 minute remaining. Yellow means 30 seconds. And red means time is up. Please stop. When the red is raised, I will interrupt candidates with the following statement. Thank you, candidate. The format for this evening will be as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. We will then move to questions prepared by Together for Timnath's board. All candidates will be asked the same questions and will be given 90 seconds to respond. The third phase will be questions from you, the questions that we collect from you. As noted, we'll collect them, sort them, and then they'll have 60 seconds to respond to those questions. If a question is directed to one specific candidate, the other candidates may respond if they wish. Questions will be directed to candidates in rotation so that everyone gets a chance to respond first. The candidates drew numbers beforehand to already get this in order. We will then end with each of the candidates having an opportunity to ask one question of one other candidate. And finally, we'll finish with closing statements of no more than 1 minute each. The candidates have not seen any of the questions that have been prepared Tonight, they will be hearing them for the first time, just like you. And we hope this forum will conclude around 8 p.m. Though I invite you to stick around for a little while after and meet the candidates and meet some of your neighbors who you may not know who are here tonight. Are you three ready? I feel like there should be some theme music or something. Let's get started. The candidates for Timnath Town Council in alphabetical order by last name are Jeramie Holt, Bill Jenkins, and Lisa Laake. It's time for their opening statements of up to 2 minutes. As I said, the candidates drew numbers to determine order, and Lisa drew number 1. Therefore, we will hear from candidate Laake first.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Lisa Laake, and I'm running for re-election to the Town Council. I've been living in Timnath with my husband and 2 teenage sons for 12 years now, and I love living in Timnath. I feel that I am qualified for council in a number of ways. First, I've had many leadership roles that have prepared me, including past experience as the president of my former HOA and president of the honorary fraternity in my grad school, and more recently as my current job as executive director for a small local nonprofit called SNAP. Second, I have almost 15 years of experience working as a government employee at the municipal, county, and state levels, which has given me an inside perspective of how government runs from the inside. Finally, in my 6 years on council, I've had the opportunity to work on countless tasks and projects in many areas, including civic engagement, particularly the introduction of council chats, the Citizens Academy, and the live streaming and recording of council meetings, all of which were introduced during my time on council. I've had the opportunity to work on infrastructure projects, including quiet railroad crossings, road widenings, additional stoplights, and the building of the town center and the police station. I have worked on parks and trails, such as the completion of the Poudre Trail through Timnath, the phase 2 and phase 3 of the community park completion, approval of the Wild Wing Park, and improvements to both the reservoir and the park at Walmart. I've also been part of the approval of many new businesses in the last 6 years, both large chains as well as locally owned and operated businesses. I'd like to share a couple of promises that I can make to you if I'm elected. I promise to listen to all community members and be a voice for all, and share those with council and be data-driven in making my decisions and creating a family-friendly community. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. And now we'll hear from candidate Jenkins.
Thank you. Good evening. It's nice to see such a nice crowd here tonight, and thank you for hosting. My name is Bill Jenkins. I've lived in Timnath for the last 7 years with my family. As a highly engaged Timnath resident, I'm well informed about the issues and opportunities before the town. In addition, I have a diverse set of skills and experiences that have prepared me for this leadership role. I know how to deal with complex issues and budgets, and I will fully commit myself to making sound decisions on behalf of the citizens of Timnath. Until recently, I was the founding president of Guide Our Growth, a 501c4 nonprofit, which won an overwhelming victory at the ballot box for Timnath residents in 2023. I stepped down from that role to run for elected office. I'm also a 2023 graduate of Northern Colorado's Leveraging Local Leaders training program. This 6-month professional development program helps leaders, quote, think and act differently in the spirit of collaboration, problem solving, and pragmatic leadership. I also have extensive entrepreneurial and business leadership skills, which will transfer to the public sector. I co-founded a company and grew it from a startup with a few employees to being listed on the NASDAQ with over 300 employees. That company was Scientific Learning. I also served as the Chief Technology Officer for a math and science-based educational and professional development company focused on K-12 education, now part of UC San Diego, and that was Sally Ride Science. I have experience in professional training in crisis management and public speaking. I've served on the Carnegie Learning Literacy Advisory Board and multiple HOA boards, and was a Larimer County CASA volunteer for children involved with dependency and neglect cases. And I'm currently a part-time substitute teacher.
Thank you, candidate Jenkins. And finally, we'll hear from candidate Holt.
My name is Jeramie Holt. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank our current town council, current mayor, for all the work they did. I can start by saying we already live in the best place to live in Northern Colorado. And it is my goal to get a spot on town council in order to continue that and improve it as we grow. I've been a resident here in Timnath for 11 years. I have 2 boys, one 3 and one 13, and a beautiful wife, Bridget. I'm a leader of my organization in the insurance world here in Northern Colorado. Where about 1.5 years ago, we started a ground up insurance agency and have had great success doing so. I'm also a longtime give back community member specific to the nonprofit world. I have devoted over 12 years to giving to nonprofits, specifically targeting at-risk and in-need youth, to where we started an organization back in 2007 and raised over $5 million, which we've given back to at-risk and in-need youth charities here in Northern Colorado. Again, I thank you guys for coming and hopefully can share my points of view as to why I think I'm a good candidate here for town council in Timnath. I've also spent the last 2 years on our planning commission, which has been an amazing opportunity to get to know the ins and outs, and was also one of the first graduates of the Citizens Academy, which is a phenomenal program that teaches you the ins and outs of all the workings here in Timnath. So excited to be here, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. All right, well now let's move on to the questions that have been prepared by Together for Timnath. And just as a reminder, candidates, you'll have 90 seconds to answer these questions. And we'll begin again with candidate Laake. So if you can slide that. Sure. So to get started, well, there's no softballs here tonight. So economic development. What is your philosophy regarding proactively attracting the types of businesses the town wants and needs? And what steps, if any, would you take to strategically guide economic development in Timnath?
I would say that I would very much support taking active steps in whether it's recruiting businesses that we know Timnath residents want, such as the ones that I hear all the time, the grocery store and some sit-down restaurants. As of right now, that hasn't been a role that council has taken. In the past, it has been a role that council members have done. I know a lot of communities have a staff member or a contract staff member whose job is specifically to go out and look at the businesses that we're trying to bring in. And I would definitely be supportive of looking at a position such as that. I would also support, we've talked as a council of having incentives for small businesses as well as some of those larger businesses, and anything we can do to bring in, especially locally owned ones. I think we should do what we can to support that. We've talked about different ways that we can offer incentives, and it's for smaller businesses tends to be different for all of them. And so I think working with local businesses to see what it is that would be helpful for them would be something I would be supportive of. And we have the town recently sold property in Old Town that is going to be built with businesses in mind for that lower level. And I think that'd be a great opportunity to bring in some locally owned businesses.
Thank you so much, candidate. We'll move to candidate Jenkins.
Sure. I'm very much in favor of a director of economic development for the town. We need somebody who has the right business experience in that area to be able to put in place an objective system for evaluating potential businesses based on the wants and needs of the community and of the citizens. And I think it's important to have an objective measures there. if you're going to offer incentives. And there's certainly plenty of businesses that are going to want to come to town because of our demographics. So I don't think we need to be offering incentives to everyone, but certainly for some businesses that could be very beneficial to the town and meet comprehensive plan goals and citizens goals, I think it could be very helpful. So I would be advocating for an economic development director.
Thank you. Candidate Holt?
I'm gonna echo some of both Bill and Lisa's. I think we can all agree in this room that growth is inevitable, but I think smart growth is what we need to focus on. I'm a huge proponent of bringing and keeping as many local businesses as possible. We all love the convenience of going through the national chains for quick, but I think we all enjoy sharing in the prosperity and the success of our local businesses, meaning the residents that you live by, if they have a business, giving them the opportunity to bring that here to Timnath. And that's not just restaurants. I mean, I spoke to one of the residents while getting signatures, and he owns a landscape company, and said, when are we going to have a little bit of industrial area so I can bring my business here? So being able to not only bring local business, but be smart about it. And then also educate. I mean, everybody wants a supermarket, but it's going to take a lot more rooftops, and not just putting rooftops in just to get a supermarket, but being economically sounded why we do it, how we do it, and where we do it. And then also longevity. Let's bring in things that'll last. Short time concepts don't always work, and we don't want buildings with vacancy. We want businesses we can go to long term.
Thank you, candidates. Candidate Holt, we're going to stay with you as we move to question 2.
That's good.
Most Timnath residents live in a metro district, and many have concerns about how metro districts operate. As a council member, what would you do to determine if metro districts are indeed necessary for development to occur and operate in good faith and in the best interest of homeowners?
Sure. Great question, right? So I think if we just absolutely say no and eliminate all of them, I think it stunts our growth completely. I think metro districts are a necessity in certain areas. I think perfect examples of not needing a metro district, like the Amazing Harmony development is phenomenal, right? Not having a metro district, but having a solid owner and someone to keep that type of development on the straight and narrow is great. But having metro districts to keep standards, to make sure that the development is clean, to make sure that it's maintained, and also to allow an entry point of sale of a home to be obtainable. I know Trailside, for example, if those multifamily homes didn't have a metro district, instead of an entry point at 400, it would be in the 600s. And having some of those fees spread out over 30 years versus having to come up front with a couple $100,000 extra just to buy a house is something that, again, in specific areas, it makes sense. And then I think we need to get community involved. The good thing about the metro districts is you can vote in your neighbors to be part of that metro district, to sit on there and share your values and make sure that what you want in your own neighborhood is managed correctly.
Thank you. We'll move down the table. If it's easier to take it off, then you can.
It's not that heavy. We're just pretending. I would actually echo a lot of the same thoughts. I think in order to have affordable housing, you do need to have some metro districts. I also feel like the town could possibly increase its efforts to educate homeowners on metro districts, and maybe even work with realtors to have them provide correct information to home buyers when they're buying homes, because that's what we hear a lot of is I didn't know, or I heard incorrectly from my realtor. So I think more efforts could be put into providing that information so that when people are looking for homes within Timnath, they know what to expect from that. And I think as a town, we can continue to review the service agreement and provide all of that ahead of time to anyone who's interested in looking. But I definitely think that if it was an option to always have somebody build and not charge that, I think that, no one's going to complain about that piece of it, unless they're paying up front for that home. So I think it is something that we will probably need to continue to do, but I think we could provide a lot more education so people understand that.
Thank you.
Right. So, yeah, metro districts obviously provide an important service. They're able to put the sewer and water and roads and gutters and storm sewers in and all of that. And that's effectively what you're paying for in addition to the upkeep. So I understand the basis for it, but I think part of the problem is that the developers basically control those metro district boards for a very long period of time. And so it would be better if there were more citizens on those boards earlier in the process. And then secondly, I agree with the education piece. There needs to be more education to prospective buyers about what a metro district is and what they're signing up for and the implications for taxes. But the council also approves those service plans. So I think if there are changes to the service plans, the council needs to be looking at them very, very carefully and make sure they're supported by the residents within the metro districts.
Thank you, Candidate Jenkins. We're going to stay with you. And let's talk about Old Town. Over the last decade, development decisions recommended by the Planning Commission and approved by Town Council have effectively moved Timnath's center of government and commerce to the Harmony Corridor. What steps would you take in the first 2 years of your time on council to revitalize Old Town Timnath as a social, cultural, and commercial district?
Right. So one of the things that I'm very interested in is getting more input from the citizens of town and from different neighborhoods. So one of the things that I will be advocating for is neighborhood advisory groups that are chartered by the town, which would include one for Old Town, but other districts as well, that would provide suggestions and input to the town about the directions and the needs of those districts. I also think that a economic development director could be very helpful in coming up with ideas and partnerships to help develop Old Town and turn it into the kind of place that everybody talks about that they want it to be, with active businesses, more businesses than currently exist, and also sort of a social center town, which it only is at Christmas time with the lighting ceremony. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to Candidate Holt.
Yeah. I love Old Town. I mean, it's one of the main reasons we came here. I wish it was 3 times the size and it had thriving businesses. I think that's something that Old Town needs. I was talking earlier to someone, and I think I would love more than anything to have a good breakfast spot down here, right? That's what Timnath is missing, so a good place to sit down locally and eat. I know Food and Grain Building and the coffee shop is a phenomenal, but getting more businesses down here, revitalizing some of the buildings that are just closed up, giving residents the opportunity to have a safe Old Town. Driving through Old Town, especially when school is getting out, is nerve-wracking to me. And seeing those kids, I think making sure that safety measures, whether it be with the existing Timnath Elementary or the new one that's soon to come. So, definitely putting an enhancement on the safety measures, encouraging people to come down here, creating new business, specifically restaurants and places for people to come and stay. Businesses that are open all the time, not just a couple days a month.
Thank you. Okay.
So I think a couple of things that we could do. One is already in the works where the old fire station is. That area is going to be rebuilt along with Savant and that whole corner. And I think that will be a first step as to revitalize the area. I also believe that though safety has come up as an issue for the Christmas tree lighting, I think there needs to be some kind of event in Old Town. I know right now, for example, the town of for Windsor, they do a wine walk in their Old Town area. So having some event that specifically is focused not only on the downtown area, but possibly the businesses in the downtown area. Obviously, that would have to be designed with input from the businesses. So what would they be interested in? What kind of events would they want? Something to kind of to promote those. I also believe that as property becomes available, the town should look at what that could be. Does it benefit the town for the town to purchase property, which I'm not saying I support or don't support, but just to kind of look at that, like, should we have some kind of say in what that kind of develops up as? As far as the size, we are somewhat limited in what we can do just based on how big of a space we have. But I definitely think implementing some of those events or something like that would help.
We're going to stay with you, Blake. And this is a similar theme, but there are two successive questions here, and this is the first one. In one word, summarize a thought or emotion for what is described as a possible artisan village or artisan district in Timnath.
Could you repeat that? Because the whole one word threw me off.
In one
Sorry.
word, summarize a thought or emotion for what is described as a possible artisan village or artisan district in Timnath.
Can I describe my word after I say it?
Well, you'll get more time to talk about this
Okay.
subject. Yeah.
Uncertainty.
Did you get her second?
No, well, we'll go back.
Fun.
Needed.
Sorry, I'm gonna pass it all the way back. Okay, here's the second part. Timnath's comprehensive plan states that the town should, quote, identify a public-private partnership for the artisan district to refine and execute the concepts of the downtown framework, end quote. What do you see as the next steps for turning this vision into a reality? And would you advocate for launching a community visioning process or convening a community stakeholder group to begin in the next 12 months?
So I'll answer that second part first, and the answer would be yes. I think artisan district is not an area I have any expertise in, so I would certainly need to pull together those that, one, know the topic, have experience with it, and those who live in the area who would be more exposed to whatever that is. So that's where the whole uncertainty for me came in, because I wasn't sure where the question was going, but I feel like to me, artisan needs to be a little bit defined more for me to kind of know what that is. Are we talking museums? Are we talking art district? Are we talking about area like the Exchange where people can kind of hang out and eat, those kinds of things?
Yeah, that fits right in with the neighborhood concept that I was talking about, neighborhood advisory groups. I also think that since you're talking about economic development, you would need some expertise there to help guide. Because if you're talking about developing 14 acres that the town owns as an enjoyable place to go, whether it's an artisan district or something else that comes out of those discussions, it's got to make sense from a business perspective as well. And so it needs to fit the needs of the community, both economically and socially. And so it is going to require some discussions with community members as well as people with business expertise and outside people that are interested in putting money into developing whatever comes out of those discussions. So Thank you. Maybe we should just hand the mic.
The non-budget having person in me says, I want all of them, right? I mean, it's having a place, when I think of artisan, I think of music, I think of sculptures, I think of paintings, I think of a place where people can express their love and passion of the arts. And being able to go down and be in an area that is driven by that, whether it be local businesses that can display, you know, whether it be an art exhibit or an outdoor area for, you know, local artists to play, you know, acoustic music or whatever that may be. But to Bill's point, it's got to make business sense, right? So there's got to be a budget associated with it. And I couldn't agree more that having people that have a passion in this specific area come together and figure out what they feel is the best will educate the masses that don't necessarily have expertise in that industry, but bringing the right people in a forum together to sit down. But I think Timnath is the type of town, especially with Old Town being close, that would absolutely thrive in that type of artisan environment.
Thank you. You can keep the microphone. Now let's talk about civic engagement now. How would you describe the state of civic engagement in Timnath? Why do you think this way? And what would you do as a council member to build trust, transparency, and positive engagement between constituents and town hall?
That's a loaded question. You give me 2 minutes. So I think one of my big focuses is bringing transparency and giving community members a voice, right? I mean, that's my tagline. That's what I really believe in. I'm the farthest thing from a politician. I'm a resident here that wants to give people like me 3-4 years ago that had no idea how to give a voice. And I think being able to communicate openly, whether it be a development planning meeting, whether it be a town council meeting, planning commission meeting. I have had the pleasure for the last 2 years of sitting on town council, and I've had 50 people in that room, and on average we get 3 or 4. Unfortunately, we get to see Bill on a regular basis because he's one of the residents that is super invested in this town, and getting people the information that they're requesting in a timely fashion is absolutely important. So to your question, I think civic engagement needs to be improved, but we also need those that are saying we don't have enough to come. When the meetings are posted, come. The town does a great job, whether it be social media, website, boards. I think the average meeting for a new development or a town hall meeting for things outside of actual town hall have 5 or 6 people that show up. We have 10,500 residents. So actually getting residents there is key.
Thank you. You can go all the way down the table.
So when I think of civic engagement, one word that comes to mind for how Timnath does it is improving. When I first joined town council, meetings weren't live streamed, they weren't recorded. We didn't have any other means for community members to contact council members. And in my time there, one of the things I had really pushed for was an informal way for community members to talk to council members. So that was the introduction of the council chats. We also offer the Citizens Academy. We have emails that people can send. We have public comment times at meetings that people can attend. And I think we do need to do a better job of pushing out that information, getting people to sign up for the newsletters, getting people to sign up for those emails. Like Jeramie mentioned, when we have those things, our meeting attendance has gone up recently, and it's really exciting to see people coming to our meetings and making comments. If I am reelected, I know one thing I would love to do is increase the number of council chats that I personally do and to have them scattered around town, hopefully working with local businesses to also bring people into those businesses as well. We've done them at Backyard Bird. We did one at Starbucks. I would love to talk with the church, to talk to Timnath Beer Works, the hidden STEM during the summer months, and increase that.
Thank you, Kim.
Well, this is an area I'm particularly interested in and have several ideas of how we could improve it. Unlike other municipalities, Timnath's town charter has no requirement for public input. And I think we're not getting enough as a result of that. So as a council member, I'd push for charter amendments to require more opportunities for meaningful civic engagement. I think we could use more. I will say on a positive note, I've noticed in the last 4 years, the town has gotten much better at pushing information out and hasn't really changed much other than the council chats about getting information in. And so I'd like to use some technology on the website to drive more input to the town. I also would like to see a revision to the neighborhood meeting process for new developments. Currently, notices go out to people within 500 feet of a new development, which meant Ladera, for example, notices went out to less than 10 people. Less than 5 showed up for that meeting. The other thing I do is have a calendar on the website that shows every meeting, every neighborhood meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stay with you.
Okay.
These are candidate-specific questions now. So, Candidate Jenkins, you have not held public office, but could you please describe at least 2 examples of bold leadership you have taken as an active community member?
I got involved with the Guide Our Growth with regard to Topgolf and was a spokesperson for that group. Nothing against Topgolf per se, personally. I thought it was the wrong business for the location. And I thought I was pretty engaged over a long period of time, both at Planning Commission meetings, at neighborhood meetings. Whenever I was aware that there was one related, I was there, as well at town council meetings. So I invested a lot of personal time in that issue for the betterment, I think, of the entire community.
Thank you. Candidate Holt. Candidate Holt, you have been on the town's planning commission for 2 years. Could you please describe at least 2 examples of courageous or unpopular votes that put you in the minority of the commission, or times when you built support for a significant decision that ran contrary to the developer's interests?
So what most people don't, I wouldn't say most people, what some people might not understand about the planning commission is it is a pretty black and white position, right? There are rules or protocols on what you can vote on as long as it meets certain requirements, and that those requirements are pretty strict and to the point. It's not a from the gut just because Jeramie doesn't want to, we're going to shoot this down. I can tell you I've spoke out greatly specific to developments going in close to the school, putting 507 door fronts right next to a school in an already crowded area in an overcrowded school. Was not a huge fan of. It met the requirements of that specific area, but definitely voiced concern on what we need to do, traffic related, school related, and put those measurements forefront, not 10 years, 15 years down the road, but right away in order to make sure that development comes to fruition safely.
Thank you. Candidate Lake. You have been on town council for 6 years. Please describe at least 2 examples of bold leadership when you spearheaded or built support for a significant initiative or made courageous or unpopular votes that put you in the minority of the council.
So for those of you who have watched most of our meetings, you'll notice that most of our issues tend to be, we have a lot of unanimous votes. One of the ones that comes to mind where I was the sole person that opposed it was when we were talking about voting districts back in, I can't remember the time frame, where in our town charter, we initially had it where once we reached 6,500 registered voters, we would go to voting districts. And it was proposed to go back on the ballot to see if we could increase that to a higher number. And I was the one council member who opposed that one. I wanted to continue to do districts at 6,500. That's the one that comes to mind where I was in the minority. I'd have to look back at my voting record, but I believe that was the only time I was in the minority on that one.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move now to questions from the audience. And again, you have 90 seconds to answer. We'll stick with you for now, candidate Lake. And this first question is, sorry. Yeah. Oh. Although most of this information is available to the public, how do you plan to actively communicate where the town's money comes from? Example, property taxes versus sales tax.
As you said right there, it is public information. I do think if during the budgeting process, which basically takes place almost from July through December, we have public meetings during that time. We have opportunities for people to talk about the budget. But if it was maybe during budget time, we could maybe make it more easily accessible on the website, maybe put something on the homepage. I guess for me, I find it easy to navigate our website and easy to find that budget. But I think we could also educate community members a little bit more on that, maybe put it in the weekly emails more often. But I guess I find it to be pretty accessible and transparent with the budget piece. So I'm not sure what else we can do on that one.
We can move to candidate Jenkins.
Right. So this last year, I've attended a couple of different budget meetings early in the process. When I first moved here, the very first year, I attended the draft budget meeting, and the draft budget was handed out to everybody in the room that wanted a copy, and it was presented by staff, discussed by council members, and also it was allowed to have input and ask questions from citizens, which I did ask. This last time, the draft budget was not available in that public meeting. It was a work session. The only thing we had access to were the slides that the staff presented. So one of the things I would do is I would publish the draft budget and allow for some period of time for input from citizens or feedback. So there's time to think about it. I know later sessions, they did allow public comment, but I think publishing the draft budget early in the process and then as it's being updated, continue to make that available rather than just the final budget.
I'll echo a lot of Lisa's comments on accessibility, right? It's available, it's out there, it's accessible. I think my biggest piece, I had a great talk earlier today from another resident, just knowing what the budget means and where the actual money comes from. And I'm not just saying, the line items, but understanding that tax dollars from homes are an extremely small part of where our tax dollars are. The need for local business and how we thrive with Walmart and Costco and businesses like that. That's where our tax dollars are coming from. So again, going back to the growth aspect, the right growth with the right businesses that are here to stay and allowing our residents to invest their own money here in the town, and then educating our residents on exactly where dollars go, right? For a $700,000 house, only $289 comes back to the town. Most of our money is actually coming from sales tax, and making sure that that's known, and not just saying, hey, just because I'm a resident, I pay property tax means you owe me X. We need more business, and we need the right business in order to drive those dollars up to make sure that this town can grow the right way.
Thank you, candidate. We'll stay with you, candidate Holt. Would you favor the creation of a Timnath Chamber of Commerce, and how could you support such an effort?
I think if we get to the point, I love it. I love Chamber of Commerce. As a business leader, I'm part of the Fort Collins Chamber, the Loveland Chamber, Windsor Chamber, just attended the Greeley Chamber event. I would love more than anything to drive down to the town I live in and attend a Chamber of Commerce. It takes a significant amount of business in order to, in my opinion, have a thriving Chamber of Commerce. But to put the puzzle pieces together or start putting together to have a committee like a Chamber of Commerce to drive the right business, I think that is actually a great, along with Bill's idea of economic development, you get the right chamber with the right people beating the Timnath drum, it's going to drive the right business to our town.
Pass it all the way down the table.
I don't know much about how many businesses it takes to make a chamber worth having. So I think it could certainly be something we look into. I know the ones I know of, which you mentioned, all have a lot more businesses than what I think Timnath will probably ever have, just based on our size. But I would certainly support looking at something that can help to support those businesses, whether it's a chamber or some other type of business district or some kind of group like that. I would certainly support. I just don't know the numbers of what it would take to actually support a chamber.
Definitely in favor of a Chamber of Commerce. Again, I think economic development director, that could be part of their charge to explore that with the businesses in town. And I would argue if Ladera fully develops over the next 10 to 15 years and Old Town sees a rise in businesses, I think we'll have plenty of businesses in town. Also with Riverbend developing, I think we'll have enough businesses to support Chamber of Commerce, and I'd be very supportive of it.
Thank you. Well, speaking of Ladera, this neighbor asks, would you be willing to share your position on Timnath annexing the Connell asphalt facility prior to Connell fulfilling its reclamation obligations to Larimer County?
And you want me to go first?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So it's a complicated topic. My thoughts on that are, first of all, as I recommended to town council, I thought it would have been better, in my personal opinion, to wait for the vote on the ballot initiative before annexing. That being said, had I been on the council, I probably would have advocated, for a time limit on both the mining aspect and the asphalt plant, like 3 years, and you have to be out in order to be annexed. So I think that might have relieved a lot of concerns about the gravel plant and the asphalt plant. As far as where we're at now, because of the legal risks, I'm not in favor of 1A.
Thank you.
I think on this question, on record of voting in favor of having Timnath annexed it in, right? As a planning commission, we voted to have it annexed in. I am a no vote on 1A. I think having the town have the authority and the oversight of that project is important over the county. But knowing that the planning commission and town council will have their finger on the actual development as it goes, and knowing that the people you elect will make sure that, you know, certain height requirements, sound requirements, things like that are done correctly, I think that development will come to fruition and it'll bring great value to this town.
Thank you.
From my perspective, one of my jobs as a council member is to look at the issues that are presented before us from community members or property owners. So if we didn't vote on it when it was presented to us, I would have felt like I wasn't doing my job. I would hate to single out and say, you've applied for this, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Because of something that might happen in the future. Like, it is my job to do that. And so I felt like we made the right decision. I also feel that regardless of whether the property is in Timnath or within Larimer County, the area needs to be reclaimed before it can be redeveloped. So it doesn't, I don't see a negative side to the town not annexing that property. I think it will speed up development. I will think that it will actually encourage them to reclaim it earlier than they would if it was not within the town, because they want to develop that area.
We have time for one more question from the audience. As a cyclist, I like this question. I would like to know what your take is on providing bike lane from Prospect North to into Old Town. And perhaps we can add to this, especially if Main is closed eventually, if there will be bike routes for cyclists.
Am I going first on this one?
Sorry. Yes, you are.
I always support bike lanes. And anytime new property is being developed, they are required to put in the sidewalks and the bike lanes. So as far as what that could look like in the meantime, it's always hard for the town to get property to put bike lanes if they don't already own some of that property. So I'm not sure what we could do. I think the town could look at how they could potentially get property to help with that. But definitely as new developments come in, as roads are widened or expanded, bike lanes should always be something that are put in on new roads. Did that answer? Did I get all the parts of that? Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's next? Yeah. Okay. So my understanding in the capital improvement plan, there is a plan dependent on development along County Road 5 to the north to widen the road and put in sidewalks and bike lanes. And as I understand it, that ends up being a shared expense between the town and the developer. So yes, I think it will happen, but it's going to take additional development along County Road 5 in order for that to happen.
As a cyclist as well, 100%. I think a bike path would be great. But going back to wearing the budget hat, and to Bill's point, it's got to be in the budget. And as the development comes, that's got to be a key part of making sure the developers are willing and able, if not forced, to put their fair share in making sure the safety measures, not only along Main and to Prospect, but any new development, to Lisa's point, definitely needs to have enhanced bike lanes and enhanced safety measures specific to pedestrians and residents of our town.
You can. We had a lot of other questions here that we'll be sharing with you, but it's time to move to our candidate questions. Again, each of you have an opportunity to ask one question to one other candidate, and the candidate has 60 seconds to respond. And candidate Lake, you're up first because you had the draw.
So I'm going to start by saying that I didn't really like that I had to pick one candidate to ask a question to, because I felt like I would either be showing preferential treatment or preferential non-treatment. So really, I don't really want to. So sorry, there we go.
I understand where you're coming from. But I have a question for you, Lisa. Looking back at the last 4 years on council, is there anything that you wish that you would have done differently? Just.
I would say yes. I always feel like, and this is an area that I certainly would like to improve upon, is being more involved. So time-wise, we introduced the council chats. That's something that I would want to do more of and just be more involved in some of the ribbon cutting ceremonies, the introduction to new businesses, some of those types of things. I think I wish I had done sooner and would want to do more of.
Thank you.
I don't want to keep bombarding Lisa with questions, but this is more out of pure respect and admiration for the 6 years that she's given. If elected, what do you think the most important thing is for Timnath moving forward as far as the residents are concerned?
The short answer to that, I would say, is to be determined. There is going to be a community survey that will be taking place this year. So I feel like that to me would be a key place to start. We try to do them every 3 to 4 years where community members identify their priorities. And it's one of the largest do people
candidates. Before we move to hear your closing statements, I just want to thank the audience for showing your concern and care for our community. For participating in this event. And why don't we give them a round of applause right now? Closing statements, we'll start with candidate Lake.
So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, for asking questions, and wanted to let everyone know that if we are presented with those questions, I will be answering them to the best of my ability for all those questions that came in. And just wanted to finish with, again, the promises that I mentioned at the beginning. That I promise to listen to the community members, to be a voice, whether I agree or not. I usually, after the council chats, I share it at a council meeting, and I would continue to do that. And to also make well-informed, data-driven decisions, which is why I don't promise to vote a certain way. Until I have all that information, I would not want to make any of those promises. And then also, I want to promote a family-friendly community. And I use the term family, however you describe your family. So whether it's your family by choice, whether it's your family by blood, to make this a community that families want to live in. Thank you.
I believe that my experiences and engagement in Timnath demonstrate my abilities and commitment to making Timnath a great place to live. I am committed to improving civic engagement and to bringing new ideas to the town government. Please visit my website for more information at voteforbill.org. I'm asking for your vote, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I think we all talked about being nervous up here and not nervous anymore. I mean, this is a great community. I think I want to leave us all with one thing. There's so much talk about this group wants this group wants that. I think we're all in here for the same reasons, and that's to make this town a better place. I think this town needs to grow with all of our voices. It needs to have good, smart growth. It needs to bring local business back. I would absolutely love your vote come election time. And I want to make sure that, the top priorities for me are giving the community a voice, making sure the education is out there so that way you know what we're doing, you have a voice in what we're doing, and we do it smart. And just thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. Neighbors, that concludes tonight's forum. Stick around to meet the candidates and your neighbors, and don't forget to vote on or before Tuesday, April 2nd. Thank you for coming together for Timnath. Good night.